If you're seeing your grocery bill going higher every time you shop at Walmart, you're not going crazy. Even though official inflation numbers are cooling down, food inflation is still going up, and the company's CEO, Doung McMillon, is sounding the alarm about price hikes this year due to the combination of lower agricultural production in the United States and import tariffs that are expected to go into effect over the next few weeks. Walmart's top boss has lifted the lid on what Americans should expect for grocery prices in the first quarter of 2025, and as you can imagine, it is not good news. McMillon forecasted that food inflation at record highs even after 4 years of frequent increases will likely get worse this year, and he said he's disappointed with current prices, pointing to eggs and dairy as key contributors to the latest increases. During the Morgan Stanley Global Consumer and Retail Conference, McMillon stated that stubbornly high inflation will not go away anytime in the foreseeable future and cautioned investors to temper their optimism going into the new year. "I don't know what the whole year is going to look like," he said. "I hope and I think it could be better as these communities adjust, at least some of them. I'm disappointed to see food inflation started to tick back up. It's primarily driven by eggs and what's happening with dairy right now," the CEO added. "But it's not those categories," he continued. "There's pressure on cocoa and other inputs, so we look at pricing compared to last week, last month, last year, but we also look at it compared to pre-pandemic. And if you look at all of the food, prices are a lot higher than they were before the pandemic, which is not what the customers want and not what we want." From December 10th to January 10th alone, prices for supermarket food already went up by 1.1%. At Walmart, food prices have jumped by more than 40% since 2020. The biggest monthly raise was recorded in August 2022 when they rose 13.5%. At this point, many customers were hoping that the cost of essentials would be stabilizing. The deflation promised by policymakers is yet to be seen. McMillon acknowledged that customers are understandably upset because food prices remain substantially higher than they used to be. While non-processed food items are expected to rise modestly, processed packaged goods will face the highest hikes throughout 2025, McMillon noted. Just a few weeks ago, a discussion on the Walmart subreddit, r/Walmart, claimed that Walmart's egg prices have soared over 140% in just a one-month period in 2024. A Walmart location in Chico, California, a 90-minute drive north of the capital, Sacramento, was seen selling a carton of 18 Great Value eggs, that's Walmart's in-house brand, for $9.52 or 53 cents apiece. A dozen of the same eggs were retailing for $7.22 or 60 cents each. One commenter wrote on the post, "I went with the Walmart brand eggs in the cartons so I could just pour it in the pan and make them. It was nearly $6. I was shocked at the prices because it wasn't long before I saw 12 pieces for like $2 and $3. I knew I wasn't crazy," another wrote. "That's ridiculous," a third person exclaimed. Since January 2019, overall food prices have risen nearly 30% in the U.S., leaving millions of households struggling to afford groceries. For low-income families, grocery shopping is becoming a real financial hurdle. In a new survey by Swiftly, 30% of U.S. households earning less than $56,000 a year reported not having enough money to cover basic groceries, forcing them to make difficult decisions about what to fill their carts with. More people are cutting back on staple foods like fruits and vegetables, which are considered healthier and essential for good nutrition. Now they're getting out the reach of many Americans. For instance, the cost of fresh apples and berries went up by almost 50% since 2021. Instead, shoppers are buying frozen alternatives. Coffee has also become more expensive due to a decrease in agricultural production, making many consumers with tight budgets to go without their daily dose of caffeine. With prices for beef and pork increasing, some families have been trading steaks and ribs for chicken or plant-based proteins such as beans, lentils, and tofu. Snacks from chips to cookies are twice as expensive as they were in 2021, according to Swiftly data. Households are foregoing brands like Doritos and Oreos for store brands that are much cheaper. A systematic review found that fresh seafood, including salmon and shrimp, is becoming a rare indulgence, something reserved only for wealthier individuals. The biggest roadblock to eating seafood is the price. Middle and low-income earners are switching to canned tuna, sardines, or frozen fish for a more affordable alternative. Pre-packaged meals such as frozen dinners or meal kits are about $7 to $10 pricier than they were 1 year ago. That's why McMillon's warning is so significant. The executive also highlighted that when import tariffs take effect, thousands of goods will have to be marked up again. Ironically, his predictions came right after the company posted its quarterly earnings results, which saw the retail giant post 5.5% revenue growth. CFO John David Rainey is concerned about how higher prices may hurt sales going forward. He said, "Our model is everyday low prices, but there probably will be cases where prices will go up for consumers." He added that almost 40% of the items the big box retailer sells are not made, grown, or assembled in the United States. That means all of those goods will be subject to the tariffs, which many economists believe will push inflation up again. Last week, experts told ABC News that electronics, clothes, and toys will also experience hefty increases under the tariff environment, given that most of these items are imported. In his first term, the elected president also implemented tariffs, though they were much smaller in scale than what he is proposing now. Rainey pointed out, "We've been living under a tariff environment for 7 years, so we're pretty familiar with that. Tariffs, though, are inflationary for customers, so we want to work with suppliers and with our own private brand assortment to try to bring down prices." This time around, they're set to rise by 60% on all Chinese goods, and there will be a 10% across-the-board tariff on all $3 trillion worth of U.S. imports. A report from the Peterson Institute for International Economics, a nonpartisan think tank, estimated that these levies will cost middle-class families at least $1,700 each year. In all, this measure could cost consumers at least $500 billion a year, or at least 1.8% of GDP, according to the Institute. That's roughly 5 times the cost of the U.S.-China trade that started off in 2018. Retail expert Neil Saunders, managing director of global data, told DailyMail.com that the upcoming taxes would cause an enormous headache and make the cost of doing business more expensive for retailers. Tariffs are paid by the companies or entities importing goods, not by the countries themselves, he explained. This means the cost of buying products from overseas, whether directly or as an input for manufacturing, is going to rise sharply. Moreover, farmers and ranchers are voicing their concern about grocery inflation as agricultural soil becomes increasingly unproductive. In a concerning trend that could impact households from all across the nation, the combination of over-farming, climate change, and insufficient sustainable practices has left vast swathes of U.S. farmland degraded and unproductive, threatening our food supply chain and driving up costs. That's not only happening in America. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, estimates that 33% of the Earth's soils are already degraded, and more than 90% could become degraded by the year 2050. According to the FAO, soil erosion occurs naturally under all climatic conditions and on all continents, but it is significantly increased and accelerated by unsustainable human activities up to 1,000 times. And this is through intensive agriculture, deforestation, through overgrazing, and improper land use changes. Experts noted soil erosion rates are much higher than soil formation rates. Soil is a finite resource, meaning its loss and degradation is not recoverable within a human lifespan. A map previously published by Newsweek predicts that 95% of America's soil will be degraded in less than 30 years. Only a 5% area is marked as not degraded. Basic items including bread, fresh vegetables, and meat are going to see the biggest price hikes. Produce and grains are directly impacted by soil fertility, while the rising cost of feed grains for livestock drives up meat prices. In the United States between 2016 and 2024, the Consumer Price Index for food has increased every year, said former regenerative farmer Anand Ithirajulu, a project director at the Save Soil Movement and the Rally for Rivers project. While food prices rise, the topsoil in the United States is declining. These two things are intrinsically connected. The U.S. loses billions of metric tons of topsoil annually, impacting food systems and costing the nation $67 billion each year. These depleted soils lead to reduced crop yields, forcing farmers to rely on costly fertilizers and costly irrigation, which drive up food production costs and ultimately drive up consumer prices. Healthy soil is the foundation of our food security, yet it's increasingly vulnerable to erosion, nutrient loss, and climate change. When soil becomes unproductive, it not only threatens our food supply, but also farmers' livelihoods, Ithirajulu stressed. In other words, this crisis is much deeper than what we're being told. Listen, people's food security is in real danger. We're not only talking about paying more for food, but living in a country that could become unable to feed its population by the end of the decade. At the end of the day, retailers are doing everything they can to save their businesses, though in some cases, price gouging is playing a part in inflation numbers too. But the fact that we're on a countdown until our food systems effectively break takes this situation to a whole new disastrous level. Many Americans are waiting for their country to be fixed in 2025. But it's clear now that some things are indeed beyond repair. What are your thoughts about this? We look forward to reading your comments. Please subscribe to our channel and thank you for watching.